It's been 4 months since Axel, the Maltese Shih Tzu, was poisoned when fire ant teams came into Currumbin Waters. Now we are going to chat with Axel's owner about what's been happening over the last 4 months, how Axel is going, and what you can do to be empowered when the fire ant teams come into your area. Hey Paolo, great to see you.
Hi, thanks for turning up.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. I was so sad, and when I first saw your story on Channel 9 about your dog. So for those who didn't see the story, can you please share what's happened with Axel?
Yeah, we've been in the area for about 10 years, never had any dramas. And we noticed the fire ant teams doing the park, the local park down here where everyone takes their dogs. All the houses in the area, all the sidewalks. Never really thought much about it before this. And we rescued him a long time ago, and he's always had problems in licking his feet, and we took him for a walk, usual walk, down to the park, down through around the block and a few places. Just our usual little walk through there. We didn't even take much notice before this happened. But they baited the area that day and all the sidewalks. We'd come home. He's always licked his feet. So whether he's picked up the baits they've just put down, and he's licked his paws, and he does a constant paw licking. Never didn't think much of it. It's the usual thing. That night he just started throwing up, started getting diarrhea, and I said to my son, what do we do? We raced him straight down in the morning to the vet at Currumbin. As soon as we walked in and said what was happening, they knew immediately that it was poison. And they said, no, just leave him here. We'll get him straight onto fluids. And all I can do is thank our local vet for knowing exactly what was going on. When I spoke to him, he said they'd had quite a lot of animals coming in recently with the same symptoms. And I managed to pick him up later on the next day, because he stayed there overnight. They looked after him, and they said, we've got him stable. They did all the toxicity. His liver toxicity was through the roof, and some other tests, the blood tests they did on him. And we brought him home. He wasn't fantastic, lethargic, and they gave me a diet for him, a liver cleansing diet, which we've had him on. I'll get a little thing on the screen in a minute. It's just beetroot, apple, carrot and celery, just to sort of detox his liver. Must be very similar to some of the ones that people actually do. But they said it really works on the animals to get the toxins out of their system and out of the liver. And now we've got him on meat with beetroot and veggies. He's got a few little issues that pop up over the last 4 months. He's had a few skin issues, a few ear infections, but I think with his liver being down a little bit, his whole immune system would have taken a little bit of a beating. So I just thank our local vet he's still alive, because there's been so many animals that haven't been so lucky. And there's so many people I see now, they're taking their dogs and animals to the vet. They don't know it's the fire ant poison. They don't know it's what it is. They're taking their animals in, and they're having the same things. They're throwing up, green bile, they've got diarrhea. But it's like anything, not all dogs and cats will be affected, but the more sensitive ones, just the same as people, are going to get affected by these things, because it's such a large scale. It's everywhere. There's really nowhere that's not getting affected by the poison going down.
Yeah, Yeah, it's absolutely horrible. And I can see 4 months on, Axel is still very fragile. I can see there, but thank goodness he seems to be on the mend. Now, it was interesting looking at that liver cleanse. It was interesting the information it said above that. Can you read that out for our people?
Yeah, it's just a fun fact they've got on there. Did you know your liver is the largest internal organ in your body? And it is responsible for over 500 tasks to keep your body healthy. It's also the only organ in your body that can regenerate itself. So it's good to know that.
It's amazing.
Yeah, beetroot's a highly versatile vegetable and it's rich source of potassium, calcium, iron, beta-carotene, folate and vitamin C. So it must be very similar to
The Kabbalah juice
Yeah.
that Don Tolman was talking about years ago, which has got carrot, 3 different types of apple, beetroot and lemon.
Yeah. So it's all those things are safe for animals, and it must work the same in them with their liver as it does in humans.
Amazing. Now, there's certain portions, though, it says there to put in there, doesn't it?
It does. At the bottom of it,
Yeah.
there's 1 beetroot fresh, half an apple, half a carrot, and 2 celery.
2 celery, yep.
Yeah.
I've heard celery is very, very good too. Yeah, there you go. So that would be a good thing to help if people have sick pets. However, most likely take them to the vet first and get the emergency treatment if needed, because we have heard many cases of cats and dogs dying, of cows, horses. We've heard lots of animals dying. And in fact, just the other day when Lynn Sutherland and I were getting interviewed by Channel 9 just last week, we asked a random lady in the park, it was actually Albert Park just off Monaco Drive on the Gold Coast, and we asked her, has your dog been okay in the area? And she said, well, actually it diarrheaed the other day. She said, I've been walking here for years, I've never had diarrhea, and this is an area, again, where they've had fire ant teams in there, and she had no idea what had happened with the diarrhea. However, we said to her, look, most likely it was the fire ant poison. So since this has happened, Paolo, what have you discovered about what's been going on with the fire ant teams? What can you tell us about what's going on?
With this, beforehand, I never really took much notice of it. I thought there's fire ants. If I see one, I'll report it, the same as everyone else does. But when this happened, I put a post up saying my dog got sick, and after the baiting and that, the next day, the Gold Coast News was on my doorstep. And that's when it sort of really kicked in what was going on. And I'd read all the government stuff and went, oh yeah, okay. Don't really trust the government, but they must be doing something. And then as I learnt, it's not a small scale poisoning of a nest or where the ants are. It's blanket baiting everything. And the more you look into what's happened overseas and what the scientists that have come over have said, they said the ants don't live in forested areas. They don't forage. They might forage a little bit into a forested area, but all their nests are outside. They're in all grasslands and very easy, clean land. And I can't understand why the government is putting all these baits right through these national parks, right through all these native areas where there's rainforests. And the more I looked into it, the more I just went, this is not right.
Yeah, and more people are speaking up. And we haven't seen any environmental impact studies. We haven't seen any science around how this is safe. And yet they're saying that they're independent researchers with no name or no company on this independent researcher is saying it's safe and effective. It sounds like Convert all over again, doesn't it? So interesting times. And this is the thing, is a lot of people lost faith in the government since what we saw with the pandemic. So what are your thoughts around that, around what's really going on behind all this?
It's crazy. The more you look into it and you look into the laws that Queensland put in through COVID with the biosecurity, and the more people I talk to, they're appalled. New South Wales laws are it is your land and you invite the people onto your property to inspect, and that's fine. I'm quite happy for a fire ant team member to come through my land. I'll even help them search. But to put a poison down where there's no ants, it just shouldn't happen. And the Queensland biosecurity laws are they can enter your property at any time they wish to. They can poison your land anytime they wish to. They can cut your gates. And if they feel like it, even though they don't have the authority to, they'll threaten you with fines, bring the police. They will use anything they can to access your property. And these laws have to change.
Yeah.
We protect our property, and it should be our choice. If there is some ants found, okay, then it's your choice. Do we use poison? Do we use a system of steam or something else to get rid of the ants? But the government, as per COVID, tells everyone stories and fear-mongering, and everyone's over it. Everyone just wants the truth. They just want to feel safe in their own home. They don't want these people coming to their gate and threatening them and saying we've got everything under the law to come onto your property. People get their backs up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have heard there are many natural treatments for fire ants. So there is a hot water treatment that can be used. There's diatomaceous earth, which is basically crushed coral. There's also orange oil. There's different types of treatments out there. Apparently that will kill fire ants. So the problem with this particular fire ant poison that they're putting everywhere, it actually kills all ants. And one of the best things to combat fire ants is actually our native ants, and we have about 200 species or so of native ants which are also getting killed through this process. So it is very disconcerting, and a lot of people are not consenting, and they're saying to these fire ant teams that they have a reasonable excuse. Now, what are some of the reasonable excuses that you know about, Paul?
The one I've used here when they came on, they didn't poison my property. The one team that did come here, the elderly man wasn't very nice. But the young guy, I spoke to him and I said, I've got an autistic son and he breeds Australian native insects here.
Right.
And we just had 50 to 60 born, and they're still coming out in that week when they were here. And I said, I really don't want any poison on my property. You're welcome to put your baits down outside my property and come through and walk through and have a look through the whole lot of it. And he went through, he came through, he went and had a look, and he came out and he signed the paper and he said, no, there's nothing here. There is no reason for us to put any bait down. And I was happy with that. But because I have been outspoken, I'm waiting for them.
Right.
I am waiting for them to turn up. The excuse of my dog being poisoned by the bait 6 hours after it was put down through the park, and he's licked it off through his paws, should be enough. But from what I'm starting to find out, that they don't have the authority to make that decision.
Yes, I've heard that too.
So we're waiting for lawyers and other people to find out exactly what's going on there and whether it has to go to court and a judge to actually make a decision on what is a reasonable excuse. But a reasonable excuse should be, it is my land, and if I find a fire ant on my land, I will have a professional company come out, or I will treat my land and kill those ants.
Yeah. Well,
and if the government had done it right from the first place and stopped and thought and spoke to the public, we wouldn't be where we are now. If they brought out a campaign and said, we stuffed up, we introduced this and let it roam free for the last 30 years, we need the public's help. And we're going to kill the nests, we're going to do this, but we need you guys, we need the public to let us know where all these things are. They did. They came out with fear-mongering, intimidation, and what's occurred is everyone's got their back up and they don't want these people on their property. I don't want them on the property. I'm quite happy to invite them onto my property with my permission, but I don't want to come home to a letter saying they've broken into my land, cut my gates, cut my locks, and poison my land against my consent.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a total violation, and particularly where there's no fire ants. I mean, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
No.
We're always going to have to use a little bit of poison some way, but there are so many natural treatments we can do. If we find a little nest in our yard, 4 litres, 10 litres of boiling hot water down through the nest will kill them all. If we're really concerned, we get a professional team in. All the professional pest inspectors now are being trained by companies to kill the fire ants. I would rather pay a professional to come in and check my property than have these being intimidated by these people again.
Yeah, totally. So what are some things people can do to get empowered around this?
It's really getting the knowledge. I got the knowledge and I searched everything up, not only from people that are against it, but also from government information. I've gone through a lot of the literature from everybody, and that's where I've made my decision. And that's where I say to everyone, do your own research, look up these sites, look up what's going on, talk to people that have been through it, and get some signs up. It is private property. It is your property. They'll tell you it's not. They can do whatever they want. Stand your ground.
Yeah.
If you see these teams come in and you don't want to have a fight with them, tell them to leave their baits outside your property. Tell them you're welcome to come on and have a look around, but you're not baiting my property.
Yeah.
If I find an issue, if you guys find an issue, then we'll get a professional team in.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of these people coming around too, they work for the dole people. They've got no idea what they're doing, and they probably don't even know what a fire ant looks like, I would imagine. So that's a big concern as well. You know, that these people are just being rolled out, and and most of them probably don't even want to be working, and they're just doing it to get their dole money. So it's the whole thing is such a waste of government resources. $1.2 billion is going into this, and this is from 2023 to 2027. They're starting in southeast Queensland. They plan to roll this out Australia-wide. And now, while we have so many side effects and so many animals have died, now is the time to step up and speak up about it. There is a great Facebook group called Stop the Toxic Fire Ant Program. I recommend go in there, have a look in there. There's lots of great resources. There's people who've spoken up about their chickens dying and their dogs dying and cats and horses and all sorts of things, or getting injured or hurt, like poor little Axel. And I've heard a lot of cases of diarrhea, of vomiting of the animals. What are some other cases you've heard, Paolo?
I've heard of dogs dying. I've heard one of the farmers, he's never had an issue with any of his cattle and the breeding. And after the poisoning, he had young ones either aborted or die after birth.
And deformed, wasn't it?
And deformed. And when you see those sorts of things, when I've been talking to people, so many people don't know what's going on. So really, we've probably reached maybe 5 or 10% of people. Other people with their animals and things getting sick and dying, they probably just thinking, hang on a second, they're not making a link. Okay, our area's been baited in the last few days, we haven't really, and something's died, one of our chickens have died, or our dogs died. They probably just thought, okay, it's just the way it is. But you've got to check. If your area's been baited and suddenly the next day your animals are sick, it's not right. There's something else going on.
Yeah, and they're going around with helicopters in properties over 5 hectares.
Yeah.
Lots of helicopters, and that's where this lady, actually Gemma Lee, you can look her up on Instagram. She lost about 25 chickens or so. That she said she heard the helicopters going overnight, and then all these little pellets were all over the ground, and then her chickens ended up dying soon after that. So it's put 2 and 2 together, you work out what's going on here. It's absolutely horrible. It's absolute crimes against humanity. The government has blood on their hands, and we need to get informed and get empowered. Do not consent. Get the no trespass signs and hold your ground. The other thing I recommend is to take photos and video wherever possible of the people coming to your property, and make sure you get photos of their badges, their name tags. Would you like to say a bit more about that? Getting the photos?
Yeah, make sure there's lots of laws that they have to comply with. They've got regulations, they've got paperwork from the government that says what they can do, when they can do it, what sort of weather that comes in. If you see there's big storms coming up and they're poisoning, film them. It's your right under Queensland law to film them, ask them for their IDs, because it will go further in the future. And under their regulations, we've caught them breaking the rules so many times. I filmed them in Currumbin one day, poisoning and putting down baits in one of the streets. And I said to them on video, I pointed out the street name, the house, the number of the house, and I said to them, there's rain coming. They've predicted big storms. It's on the radar. That night, we had 50 mil rain. So everything from all those streets would have gone straight down into Currumbin Creek again. I filmed the helicopter as it was going over just before the eco village. I was filming the helicopter dumping bait right through all the bushland there, over the top of the creek, everywhere. It shouldn't happen.
No, it shouldn't. And north side of the Gold Coast, I know people in Labrador and Upper Coomera that have had the poison sent to their home. And it actually says on the container, very toxic to aquatic life. And here they are spraying this poison over waterways, over creeks, or over areas where it could go into the water supplies. Yes, Paolo.
And what I found out the other day is they keep changing the laws on everything. It used to be for organic farms, it used to be 12 months. I think it was about 12 months before any of these chemicals were on their land, before they could actually sell their product on market and everything. I think now it's come down to
3 weeks.
3 weeks or something.
3 weeks.
They can sell their products. I just wonder, why would you change the laws on organic farms from 12 months down to 3 months? There was
3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks. There was a reason those laws were there, so these toxins don't enter the food chain.
Yeah.
Now we've got 3 weeks. The organic farms aren't organic anymore.
Yes.
So you start going to these local markets and you've got organic food. How organic is it if they're changing all these rules to suit themselves? And the problem is the organic farmers have got no choice, because they're told what to do and then what they have to do. And that's what saddens me. It's like all these organic products, how much of the toxins are there going to be in our fruit and veggies that we think's organic, but the government's decided that you only need 3 weeks now for the poison to suddenly disappear when it was 12 months before. The rules keep changing. They keep changing the rules on all these things. And the rules were there for a purpose in the first place.
Yes.
To protect us.
Yes, absolutely. So the big thing here is to get informed, get empowered. There are petitions online as well. Speak up, stand up, do not consent. This poison, there's nothing good about this poison. In fact, it should not be rolled out. There's ingredients in the poison that were banned overseas. We've got to ask, why is Australia the dumping ground? Why is Southeast Queensland the dumping ground? There is so much evidence now coming out of the harm on the environment and animals and on people. Because Lynn Sutherland actually went into the creek and got sick, and her dog went swimming and got sick straight after the poisoning as well. So there's stories like this out there as well. It's actually affecting people's health. as well. Anything else you'd like to share about what's going on or how people can get empowered?
Yeah, it's getting together as a community. Here in Currumbin, the community's starting to really come together. A lot of people are realising that it's not good. We've had people from the Eco Village trying to stand up for the community, not only just the little small area that they're in there. They've asked for the whole of Currumbin to be treated with respect and be treated as a healthy environment and organic. I've heard stories coming out from the government saying that the farmers their cows won't be able to go down to the rivers and drink because there'll be fire ants right through the edge of the rivers, and the animals won't go down there to drink, and they'll dehydrate and they'll die. Farmers know their properties. Farmers know their properties back to front. They get rid of the weeds. They're always travelling their properties. If there was a problem down near the water supplies, the farmers are our backbone. They would sort out any problem if there was fire ants down near their water supplies. They'd get rid of the fire ants, whatever means they have to do to make sure their animals are safe, because their animals are their livelihood.
Yeah.
They know every blade of grass on their farms.
Yes.
So I trust a farmer before I trust the government telling them that their animals are going to die because they can't drink the water.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, this poison they're sending out, the brochure that's coming out with the poison that they're sending to people's homes, the brochure actually says, put this on your land even if there's no fire ants, because the fire ants could be under the ground. So it's all this, the fear tactics, scare tactics, and it's killing earthworms, it's killing the other ants. This is not a poison just for fire ants. It's an ant bait for all ants, and unfortunately killing a lot of animals, and it should not be getting anywhere near the water supply. So this is really concerning because there are forever chemicals in this stuff. This stuff is not going to break down it takes ages to break down, and then what breaks down from it is even more toxic than the actual poison itself. So look into the science, do your own research, get on the Stop the Toxic Fire Ant Program Facebook group, sign the petitions, share this video, share the other videos around about what's been going on. And if you know anyone who has a pet that has been injured or has died and who is happy to speak up, we are looking for more case studies to go to media with. We're going to stay on the campaign trail, and it's very, very important for future generations that we speak up and step up now. Anything else you want to share, Paolo?
No, it's been a long day today.
Yeah.
And we get this guy. I think he's falling asleep.
Yeah.
He's probably enjoying a little pat tonight.
Yes, little darling.
So he's slowly on the mend. He goes up and down. Some days he's not fantastic. A few little issues, but he's a good little guy. If it wasn't for our local vet, we would have lost him.
And you were saying too that a lot of people who have sick dogs, it's going to cost that much to get them treated that maybe some people won't be able to afford it. So what's going to happen there, do you think?
I don't know. Even us, everyone's getting tight with money now. The cost of living is really hitting hard with everybody. We're lucky that our local vet doesn't charge $1 million like some do. Our local vet is really, really good. They're fantastic with the pricing, and the animals come before anyone else. But if something does happen, talk to your vet, let them know what's happened, and all the vets love the animals. That's why they're there. Work it out with them.
How much would it cost normally to sort out? So with Axel,
he cost me, when he was down there and he stayed overnight, he cost me about $800.
Which is cheap, right?
With his cheap. I've heard other people $1,700, and even more if it's an emergency vet. You're looking at maybe $3,000.
Wow.
So I would rather have my property inspected by a professional, and if they did have to put down some poison, that we couldn't do it any other way, then we'd have that cordoned off for a week, 2 weeks, where no animals can get to it. That would be sorted out, whatever the nest was, if it couldn't be sorted out. Now there's so many other alternatives, from what I've seen overseas, that they've already proven with the steam, with the hot water, that's killing the nests. Try all those first and then go from there. But if we kill all our native ants, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because from what you see, they say that the ants can fly, a queen can fly from the nest up to a certain amount of kilometres away. If everything's poisoned and we lose our native ants, that's going to be our first line of defence. A single queen flying away, if our local ants attack her, there's not going to be a new nest. But if we kill all our ants and we kill everything else, there's nothing to compete. The fire ants will have free reign, as they did in America.
Yes.
Their fire ants aren't good, but they're definitely not as bad as they keep saying. I got bitten on purpose, and green ants are a hell of a lot worse than them.
Yeah, and there's absolutely no need for the mass poisoning. The poison that's going down is a lot worse than any fire ants. And most animals, from my experience, or insects, they mind their own business. They're not going to go out of their way and attack you. They're just doing their thing. You know, if you step on their nest or something, then obviously, you know, they're going to come for you. But, you know, in general, you know, nature just looks after itself. Animals just do what they do. You know, they'll only go hunting generally if they need food for something with the bigger animals. But, you know, it's you know, there's so much fear mongering that happens with government, and you know, it's like most people. Look, I've never even seen a fire ant. I've lived here 50 years. I've never even seen a fire ant, and most people I speak to have never even seen one. It's not an issue in most places in southeast Queensland or even around Australia. And the places where it is an issue, we'll just go treat those areas. I mean, it just makes common sense, right? It's just common sense. So anyway, now you know. Now you have some information about it. You can go out and, you know, find out some more if you like. Do your own research, but definitely do not believe everything the government tells you. They have lied to us about so many things over the years, and now more and more people are starting to question. They're starting to wake up. They're starting to realise that they need to take their own health and take the environment into their own hands, and make empowered choices for themselves around their properties. Any final words, Paolo?
No, that's about it for the moment.
That's it. Thank you so much for your time. And Axel, little darling. Now, so this is 4 months on and he's still not 100%. So there's more vet treatments to go now?
We'll just see. We'll see how his skin goes. We've got some little creams and some washes just to keep his skin good. But we did his ears, gave his ears a good clean before, because they had a little bit of muck in them.
Right.
And but we keep his fur nice and shaved off at the moment, so we can keep a good eye on his skin and how he's going. And how often do you give him that juice there? We give it to him as often as he wants. Okay, that's good. We've got a couple of other dogs, and everyone seems to like their veggies. All the dogs seem to like their veggies. They all seem to fight over all the veggies, which is great. Makes it really, really easy. That's great. So we try to give it to him as often as it. It's all veggies and fruit, so it can't really do any harm to them. Yes. And the more of the beetroot and those sort of things they get in, it's good for their liver. Anything else they sort of pick up, and you never know that someone might sneak onto your property and throw some of the poison around. Well, yeah, I've heard of them throwing it over fences as well. Yeah. So yes, keep an eye out for them if you see them coming down the street. But anyone that does see anything or hear anything, report it to your vet. Any animals sort of getting sick, even if it's minor, report it to your vet. Yeah. And just let them know that the area has been treated and suddenly animals come down sick. There's reporting sites that you can report and please do report it to the major sites, because they have been saying they haven't been getting reports and lying that they haven't got them.
Right.
They haven't had any reports of any animals being sick, even though people have reported it. The vets have reported it to the departments. The more people that stand up and say, look, our animal has got sick from this, the more evidence they have to change what they're doing.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much, Paolo. Totally agree, 100%. And we do have wild care. There's also Currumbin Hospital that can take in also wild animals, because I've actually noticed a lot of birds on the side of the road lately. A lot of birds have been dying as well, or very sick. And I've heard similar reports about that too. So if you do see anything, do report it. Take photos wherever you can. Take videos and get some more information for yourself, and spread the good word. Spread the word. And I do believe that, you know, with enough people standing up about this, that we can create change. They did it in America. The same thing happened over there. Where there was poisoning going on, and it went through the governments over there, and they ended up stopping it. And the same with, you know, PFAS here. PFAS was a firefighter's foam that they said was safe until it wasn't, as Kathy Osborne was saying at our event at Currumbin RSL last Sunday. Kathy Osborne, she was running for Burleigh in the current election for the Libertarian Party, and she said there was a $132 million payout from PFAS from the government because of the poisons that went into the environment. I mean, it took a few years for it to happen, but now is the time to step up, speak up, stand up. Check out the Stop the Toxic Fire Ant Program Facebook group, and make sure that you report anything that you see that could help the case moving forward. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Paolo, once again. Thank you.
Thanks so much for dropping in.
Thank you. And thank you, Axel.
Yes,
thank you. Wishing you a long, healthy life, little darling.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, Axel. Bye. Bye, Paolo. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon. Much love. Bye.